What's up guys, War History Geek here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at my original World War II German Panzerschreck. This is also known as the official term, the Rakettenbücher 54, also which is more commonly known among German veterans as the stovepipe. Most often you see in any kind of veteran account that ever used these or saw them, they were always called stovepipes. They almost never called them the Panzerschreck. Now, what's interesting about these Panzerschrecks is starting in Tunisia in about 1943, they were exposed to the bazooka. And they found that the American bazooka was far better than what they had at the time as their I guess you could say almost portable anti-tank weapon, which was the Rakettenwerfer 43. They found the bazooka was just so much of a better idea to be able to have a 1 to 2 man portable team with a rocket launcher that you could move around and make quick strikes, rather than what the Rakettenwerfer looked like was more like of a, I like to say, mini artillery cannon. Production on these started in about late 1943, and they began with no shield, like mine. Unlike the bazooka, however, the rocket engines on these, which were 88mm rockets, do not extinguish in the tube. The bazooka was designed so that the rocket engine that launches it out of the launcher extinguishes before it leaves the end of the tube, and it's just being carried by momentum. The downside of these is that the rocket continued burning for another 2 meters after it left the end of the rocket launcher, sending exhaust back into the face of the user. Now, this forced them to wear gloves, gas masks, and essentially cover all bare skin to prevent from burns. And I'll even put up a picture here if I can find one of the early use with a gas mask. And as a result of this, they found that it was just tedious to have to either constantly wear this gear or have to try and put it on when you want to shoot a tank. And they found that by the time you get it on, you've lost your chance. So troops began making makeshift shields in the field, just out of whatever scrap metal or whatever they could find, so that they didn't need to wear this gear. And then the officials, like the actual producers, the government, responds to this by saying, hey, that's a good idea. And they start producing shields as an official part of the rocket launcher. But it took several months until late 1944, early 1945 to be able to produce the launcher with the shield pre-attached before it left the factory. So during that time, they produced all the shields and they were issued to the units in the field to be put on as an add-on kit. By the end of the war, there were approximately 107,000 of these made. And yeah, that's the extent of it. Comparatively to other weapons, there were not many of these produced. And there's even fewer left in the world. Again, most of the time you see them as all original. If you go to IMA, International Military Antiques, and look up their list of Panzerschrecks they've had for sale over time, the majority of those are all original. There's some of them that have been repainted, but none of them have been fully restored. My example was actually fully restored. Now, I don't know exactly where it was found, but the story I was told by the seller is it was found in a deep lake or a marsh somewhere over in Europe, and all the metal was preserved. So all they needed to do was do a little bit of work to the metal, work out the oxidation, and then replace the wooden grips that you see down here. And that was it. It was good to go. So everything you see on this is all original metal. There's no replacement parts made or attached. So that's just absolutely excellent. As far as I'm aware, I've only done the research to see that there's only a couple fully restored ones that were ever for sale on the market. One of them, of course, was on Combat Dealers, and it was a fully restored one that was in operational order. This one is not. It's disarmed, of course, which I'll show you in a bit, or I can put up a picture of the disarmament It's a hole about the diameter of the actual launcher cut into the side towards the rear. And that was the standard at the time that this was imported. So yeah, you see most of these on the collector's market now. Back in the 60s, they actually had a large quantity of them imported as weapons from some countries that continually used Panzerschrecks a little bit after World War II. And those are, you know, you can still find those from time to time, part of that original import collection. However, it's more likely that you're going to find some that were in the collector's market for a while with original German camouflage. So, yeah. That's about all the background information. We can take a quick look at this. So starting down at this end, we have the sight, and those were used, and of course they had a whole bunch of different versions, but those were used to obviously aim. You have the front sight up here, which you can see the little dash there, and then you have back here the rear sight where you would line up that mark in that square in the cut here, a very basic iron sight. And these different versions slowly evolved. By the end of the war, they were expecting that they should be able to aim very long distances, but realistically, it just wasn't possible. But they had the sights to do it anyway. I also forgot to mention, towards the end of the war, these, of course, are made of steel, but in 1945, right before the end, they were experimenting with pressed cardboard tubes. So that was, I mean, that would be scary. Just imagine launching an explosive rocket out of a cardboard tube over your shoulder. I would not want to be that guy. But anyway, so moving down here, you have the grip system. That's where it rests on your shoulder. And I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of this, to be honest with you. I believe Forgotten Weapons made an excellent video. I actually got a considerable amount of my information from that video, so I'm not going to take credit for all this knowledge. I'm just kind of, you know, restating it for my video, going over my Panzerschreck. Now, what's interesting about this one is that you can actually still charge the launcher, which is not usually not available. Usually they're disarmed so that you can't charge it and pull the trigger. But this one, you can actually pull back the charging handle, and that will move this rod forward right here. That'll compress it on that spring. And then that's actually right down here, you can see a little line. That's the safety latch. So when you wish to release the safety latch and actually be able to pull the trigger, you press that button inside the charging handle, and that puts it into live fire. At that point, you can then aim and pull the trigger right here, which launches this rod backwards into this cylinder here. Now that cylinder is a very basic battery. It has a magnet in the bottom, and it has a coil of wire and then a steel rod that shoots back through it. And you can see this rod going all the way up along the back to this power box. And that would actually send a small electrical charge through that wire from that small battery that ignites the rocket. Now you can see back over here, there we go, that latch back there actually holds the end of the rocket in. And there would be two wires coming out of the end of the rocket. Now one was the grounding wire, and the other one you would actually plug into that hole right there. That's what you would do to send the electrical charge from the launcher into the rocket. And of course this would be a 2 to 3 man team, so you had one actually carrying the launcher. You had one person that was in charge of carrying the ammunition, aiming and priming the rockets. And sometimes, as I said, there would be a 3-man team where you would have one person in charge of carrying and launching, one person in charge of loading and priming, and another person in charge of carrying the extra ammo, which were actually seen on wooden backpacks, especially made for those rockets. Now those are extraordinarily rare, and of course I don't have any. I'm very fortunate to be able to have this original rocket launcher. But yeah, that's the basic functionality of it. As you can see here, there's actually these divots. There's 3 of them, one on the top and then one on either side. Now the point of that was, the diameter of those divots is actually the size of the rocket. The rest is just ever so slightly larger. And the point for that was, it was to reduce friction on the rocket. So rather than, first of all, you have a little bit of play, so if there's dirt in there, or if the rocket is slightly off in dimensions, it's not going to get stuck in the tube, etc. It's not going to not fit. So you have a little bit of playroom there. But also, you have these divots here, which is actually the diameter of the rocket. So rather than trying to push that rocket through a tube, touching the rocket all the way around, what they did is they had 3 points of contact on the rocket, and that was to reduce friction and allow the rocket to move more smoothly through the tube. Now, I have had a chance to buy some original rockets. They're quite expensive. I believe the last one I saw sold for around $600. So, of course, I'm still looking out for one of those. But this is my original Panzerschreck. I bought this from a friend of a friend. I paid, not going to say exactly how much, but I'm going to say that I did get an excellent deal. So, thank you to the guy who might be watching this. But yeah, this is all original minus the wood handles and the carrying strap. So all the welds, all the parts, minus the wood, of course, like I said, is all original. Everything is exactly the way it was when it was lost in the water 75 years ago. Now, there is a lot of repairs done to this launcher. You will see a lot of Bondo and other fillers that they actually patched a hole with some steel if you look on the inside, but overall, this is perfect. And I was extremely happy to be able to find one that's restored, because don't get me wrong, I would love to have an all original with original paint. But what makes this one good is that I can use this for my reenacting. I can take this original Panzerschreck out in the field and be able to use it for reenacting without feeling bad about damaging it too severely or anything like that. Now, obviously, I don't want to damage it, but if it does get damaged, since it's already been fully restored, a couple more fixes isn't going to destroy it. Now, I have compared this to a reproduction, as my reenacting unit does have a reproduction. This one is extraordinarily heavier, which is really interesting. You would have thought that they would have matched up the reproduction to the same weight as an original. Also, going into the shield thing. So, the story is that they believe that this is actually a very early production run that never received the shield. So it was lost in combat before the shield idea came to fruition, before it was shipped out to that unit. So their thought process was, okay, well, we didn't find the shield anywhere near to this launcher. Now, of course, this rocket launcher absolutely could have had a shield. It's just that it was lost at time, got lost somewhere else, broken off, whatever. But they very thoroughly searched the water that they found this in. They found no trace of any shield, not even parts. So this led them to assume that, well, if the metal on this is this well preserved, you'd think there would be a shield. They didn't find one, so we've come to the conclusion that this is an original early Panzerschreck that never received a shield. Again, which makes this interesting for reenacting is, with the shield, you can just carry, you don't need any extra gear. But when you're reenacting with this, you have to wear a gas mask without a filter. You have to have the proper gloves. You have to have your skin covered. It adds that extra layer of an interesting look to your unit. It sets your unit apart. So not only does this set my unit apart by allowing us to use this original Panzerschreck, but it sets us apart because, as far as I'm aware, I've never seen a unit that uses a Panzerschreck without the shield with all of the correct gear. So it gives our unit an interesting look and helps us to stick out at events. So yeah, I'm going to cut the video real quick so that I can turn this around, and I'll see you then. Okay, now with this turned around, you get a better look at the disarmament hole over here. As you can see, it was cut very roughly, and the point of that is obviously so that nobody can patch it. I'm not planning on patching this, of course, because that's a crime. However, like I said, I'm just absolutely ecstatic to be able to have this in my collection. It's an excellent piece of history. It's great reenacting gear, and I couldn't have asked for a better item or a better deal, honestly. So yeah, that really about does it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, and when you're in that area, hit the subscription button and notification bell. I have plenty of other videos coming in the near future, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you really liked this video and enjoyed seeing my original Panzerschreck, make sure to share this with your friends. I'm really doing my best to get the word out about my channel more, and I would be absolutely ecstatic if you were to share this video so that other people can enjoy my original Panzerschreck as I do. That's all I have for this one, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!